Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody listening. This is WZNC LP Bethlehem, North Country Community Radio, 99.9 FM, and streaming online at nococommunityradio.org. I'm your host, Amanda McKeen, and you're listening to North of Normal. We have a lot of new listeners today, so before I introduce our guest, I'd like to quickly give people a heads up. This is not your typical podcast, and you may be incredibly disappointed with the show if you're looking for topical discussions or surface-level conversations. You may also be uncomfortable here if vulnerability, emotional depth, or the realities of your own human condition make you uneasy. But to everyone tuning in, you are exactly where you need to be right now. And I thank you so much for listening. I started this show in June of 2025 from the belief that who people are matters a whole lot more than the titles that we have, and also the belief that true connection is born from the ability to be vulnerable and share our lived experiences, perspectives, and passions. We're in our second season now. I've been blessed to have over 40 guests on the show who live in and around the North Country of New Hampshire and contribute to life and meaning here. Guests have come from all walks of life. Some are young, some are older. Some have left the North Country and come back. Some have never left at all. The important thing is that we're all here. North of Normal is an excuse to slow down and really listen to your neighbor, to understand them, learn from them, and feel a little more connected to each other than before. A few things that this show asks of my guests before they come on. We don't discuss politics or religion. We're not here to sell anything. And we've tried very hard not to use bad language. Before each episode, I ask if there are any topics off limits, because I'm not here to corner anyone. I'm here to listen. Conversations are unscripted. The questions I ask come from my own curiosity in the moment and are unplanned. Guests are by invitation only, many of whom are recommended to me by previous guests, which ends up revealing the intricate and beautiful web of connections that exist here in the North Country. We record live on the radio here at NCCR on Main Street in Littleton. The recording is then archived and shared on Spotify, my website, and social media. Today's guest is someone who has had an impact on my life since 2020, when I purchased his books at the local bookstore as a Christmas gift to myself. I had taken an interest in hiking the White Mountains, and someone had recommended I read his books. I first read Where You'll Find Me, and it was then I learned about the importance of being prepared in the mountains. It was also when I learned about search and rescue. I then read The Last Traverse, which reinforced what I had learned in the first book, but also gave new meaning to the Franconia Ridge whenever I visited. Reading Ty Gagne's books was the catalyst for me eventually joining Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue, and I found myself meeting and working with many of the characters in the stories I had read, some of whom have even been on this show. Having Ty on the show today is an incredible honor, and I know there are so many here in our community who appreciate him, his work, and his undeniable impact on life in the White Mountains. Ty, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Amanda. The honor is mine to be here. And good morning, listeners.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for saying yes to my invite. I like to start by explaining to people how I meet my guests, because it's always a story. And I had a couple weeks ago a guest by the name of Peter Crane with the Mount Washington Observatory. And Peter recommended you. And as soon as he said your name, I said, will you please make an introduction? And he did what he said. He did what he promised. I was so excited. I think I was away on vacation when I got your email. And I called you as soon as I came back.
Yeah, no, thank you for reaching out, and to Peter for connecting us. I so appreciate the work that Peter does at the observatory. He's an amazing archivist, and he's been so helpful to me as I've researched these stories.
Yeah. He is a wealth of knowledge, that's for sure.
He is.
And he does have his own episode, so those of you listening, if you want to check out Peter's episode after this or at some point in the future, you'll probably learn a whole lot more about the White Mountains. So, Ty, you and I were talking about how different this podcast is, and this conversation that we're about to have is probably not what a lot of people are used to. You go places, and what do you get asked to talk about?
Yeah, this is a unique experience for me, so I was really excited to do it. I'm generally out talking with groups about the stories that I write about, or more specifically, other groups I'm talking about risk, decision-making, consequences, outcomes, things like that. So to be talking a little bit more about how I maybe arrived in this chair today it's intriguing to me. I'm excited to do it.
Good. Yeah. I was looking to try and figure out some more about your personal life, and I really couldn't find that much. Like, I looked in the back of your books, and, it says what you've written, but it doesn't say where you come from and why you care about this stuff.
Well, there are word count restrictions. And
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no word count restriction on this podcast today.
No, I mean, I'm a private person. Yes, I'm out and talking with groups. I'm a private person, but I've also been trying to put more attention to just being more vulnerable and connecting with folks and sharing a little bit more about myself, which I've just never been super comfortable doing that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So a little bit of bravery is required.
Yeah.
Thank you for being brave.
Yeah.
So what do you want to start with? What do you want people to know about where you came from? Where
do you want to go? How far back?
As far back as you want to take us.
Yeah, so I've lived in New Hampshire my entire life.
Okay.
Most of my life was located in central New Hampshire, kind of what I would call it at the edge of the North Country, the true North Country. And only recently, I think in 2019, relocated to a more southern part of the state. But yeah, I grew up here. I was an outdoor kid, and it's hard to imagine living somewhere else than New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I love the state so much.
And you're from here. It's interesting to hear that.
Yep.
What town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Holderness,
nice.
Right near Plymouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what types of things did you do outside as a kid?
I'd love to just be out kind of roaming around the woods. I had a motocross bike at one point, so I like to ride. Obviously learned to rock climb in middle school.
You did?
Yep.
I didn't know you were a climber.
Yeah, it's it was, I can remember, do you know where Boulder's Motel is in Holderness?
No.
Okay, it's on Route 3.
Okay.
It's right along the lake, and there's this huge boulder, this big glacial erratic that's just off the road. And my middle school industrial arts teacher, big rock climber, and taught me. I did my first rappel off that boulder, and you talk about like the stress response, flight, fight, or freeze. I was completely frozen.
Oh, really?
About 30 feet off the ground, because you have to lean back and trust the rope and trust the anchor and trust the person that set it. But that kind of was where the seed was planted for me, on around high places.
And you liked it.
After I got through the fear, which is I think true for most of us. Once you make that leap out of of your comfort zone and come out of it on the other side.
What is the name for that?
For
that feeling after you've been so terrified and then you realize that everything's okay.
It's probably euphoria, relief, and then I think that's where confidence starts to set in a little bit.
Do you think there's some adrenaline there too?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you like that feeling?
I do.
Okay. Are you an adrenaline junkie?
I don't, probably not in the way that we view adrenaline junkies, doing really extreme kinds of things. I don't think I'm like that, but I don't mind getting out of my comfort zone. I don't, I did all of the things as a kid you're not supposed to do, and you're lucky to drive too fast. Motorcycle without a helmet, those kinds of, I went through that immortal phase just like I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But haven't really shied away from adrenaline, but it's a different relationship that you have with it as you get older. Yeah.
So did you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you guys play together outside, or you had your own friends?
Yeah, I grew up in Holderness. I just had a lot of uncles and aunts and cousins, similar age. Went to school with them as well, elementary, middle school, high school. So I always had that kind of constant thread. And then we had family that didn't necessarily live in the immediate area, but would travel in. So I remember just a lot of people around a lot of the time on weekends. Again, uncles and aunts and cousins and friends of the family who'd all become common friends. And, but yeah, I also liked my solitary time, just being outside and daydreaming or pretending I was doing this or that. And then, your typical sibling activities that you do together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did your parents do for a living?
So my mom, she was a hairdresser, hairstylist now. And she owned a salon, and I didn't really realize it. I think I was too young to understand at the time, but looking back, she built a business, and she built a really loyal customer base. And I think at one point the salon was actually in the basement of our home, so there were constantly people coming over. We were able, just to wander down there and see the same faces, and really, I can really appreciate now the connections that my mom developed with people.
Yeah.
Which continues today. My dad, he was a state trooper here in New Hampshire until I was 5.
Okay.
And then we moved to Holderness, and he became the chief of police there.
Wow.
So I grew up around law enforcement. I can still remember troopers coming over to the house.
Yeah.
I have that memory. Even though I was really young.
Yeah.
And then again, that was another constant thread. And so I think in with both of my parents, it was service was a core value.
Yep.
Because my mother was providing a service that people sought, appreciated, were grateful for. I saw the way my dad interacted with the community, and I still have all those really good memories of that.
Did you kind of see your dad as a hero at any point? Do you remember?
Yeah, absolutely saw him as that.
Yeah.
Also, I will share that I probably didn't get let in as much as I wanted to be, as I wanted to be much closer to him. But he was he was just really guarded with his emotions. His father, I've never talked about these things.
Oh, I'm so
public,
excited.
so
thank you.
His father left him and my grandmother. My dad was young.
Yeah.
He went through some traumatic experiences as a teenager, and I know what that is now, and I didn't know it then. So yeah, I always had him on a pedestal, wishing I could be closer. Never really getting there until the last 9 months of his life.
Wow.
We were estranged for quite some time. So.
Wow.
Yep.
Just thinking about that. All right. So I've got a better idea of your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you think you started seeing this gift you have of research and writing as a child?
I can trace, I think one of the constants in my life has been writing, and I didn't really realize that until I've been reflecting back on it more recently. But I can trace writing back to, fourth grade. I remember my mother saved this project I did. We had to write a creative paper, and I wrote, it was a 10-page creative story about a haunted house, which I still have it.
You have it?
In this Tupperware bin. Yeah, and that my mom saved. And people who are listening might be like, wow, 10 pages, fourth grade, that's incredible. Well, but that's when the lines on the paper were 3 inches wide.
Okay.
But from there, I went on, I wrote a local column for the newspaper called Squam Talk, and I would go out, my mom would take me out.
At what age?
I think it was right around fourth.
Oh, still young.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was young. And my mom would take me out into the community, and I would interview like the fire chief or the public works person. I was just really interested in people's stories.
Wow.
And I think then I had like my kindergarten through fourth grade experience was like incredible. Everyone in the class loves each other. It's like family. You want to go to school, but in fifth grade, middle school, cliques start to form. You start playing sports, and I was a really young. I was a young student. Like I just barely made the September cutoff.
Okay. I
was not done baking yet. I really needed it, probably another year of maturity. I was like super small, and I had a really hard time grades 5 through 12 or 5 through 11.
That's a long time.
Yeah, trying to figure out who I was, back and forth between friend groups, zero confidence in, terrified of math. Just a lot. And my story isn't unique. I mean, these are the angsts that we go through. But, I had some storms for sure. Yeah. Yep.
Did you get bullied?
Yeah.
You did?
I did. Yeah.
For your size, do you think?
Yes. I think that I really didn't have my growth spurt until junior year of high school. Senior year was awesome. I loved school. I really didn't want to leave.
Your confidence came in.
Yeah, and it was. I would compare senior year to my fourth grade year in terms of what it felt like, where everyone was just kind of happy, knowing that the end was in sight and on to the next journey. But I really liked going to school my senior year, and I hadn't felt that way in a long time.
It's good that you ended on a good note.
Yeah. And I also think just maybe my size, but also just projecting a lack of confidence, which some will take advantage of that and pounce on it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that definitely happened. But that's where resilience comes in.
It's true.
Yeah.
So what was the plan when you were done high school? Like, did you know what you wanted to do? Yeah,
I knew what I wanted to do at a really young age, and this will come as no surprise. I wanted to be a police officer.
No surprise.
No surprise. That's really all I knew, or thought I knew. Mm-hmm. And so, much to my parents' lack of support, maybe I graduated from high school. I went to a 1-week, it was called the Police Cadet Academy, which is still in place today. It's like an Explorer program.
Okay.
I got back from that, spent the entire summer of after graduating, riding in a cruiser, doing ride-alongs. I'm talking constantly, just immersed in it. Went to part-time school in the fall after I turned 18. And then in January, there was a full-time opening and I went for it, got it, and spent almost 11 years full time
as
a police officer.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
That's weird to me.
Let's peel back the layers.
Okay. Wow. Going from a police officer to now, well, you're in risk management, right?
Yeah. Yep. I work for a risk pool, and we put a lot of focus on risk management.
I don't understand that at all. I've never been part of that world, so I don't even know what questions to ask you on that.
Well, I think you're managing risk every single day.
Right.
We're constantly surrounded by it.
Yeah. Anytime
we lack information about something, it's another word for that is uncertainty. Another word for that is risk. So
yeah,
I think we just don't realize, we label it. It sounds kind of geeky, right? I mean, it's you think of the movie Along Came Polly. That's what Reuben and Along Came crunching numbers. It's not a lot of that. It's more of the human factors of things and why they happen.
Yeah. So it's like a broad spectrum of risk.
Yeah, I look at it really broadly.
Okay.
You can get really granular with it, but I look at it more broadly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your police years.
Mm-hmm.
What was the biggest thing that you learned from being a police officer?
How to better understand people, why we do some of the things we do, how to try to bring order to chaos, the importance of you're part of the community, and I think that takes a little while for, I'm not going to say every new officer coming in to figure out, but there is a cycle to it, and it's recognizing the role that you play, the service aspect of the job. I learned things based on experiences that I went through, things that you can't unsee, and things you're up close and personal for that you'll never forget. And I think all of that just contributes to just perspective. And I used the word resilience earlier, but definitely that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the biggest mistakes you made as a police officer?
One of the biggest mistakes.
I love talking about mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I think I made, there's not just one that stands out, and I would say that through my life. I mean, we're continuously making them, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how you define mistake, too.
I want to think about that a little bit.
We can come back to it.
Yeah, we can.
My next question, do you need to write that down, by the way?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'll come back to it.
My next question is, how did becoming a police officer improve or not improve your relationship with your dad?
Well, he did not want me to go in.
He didn't?
No.
Why not?
Because I think he knew, and I was, again, just as I was when I entered school, I was young. I was young going into the job.
Yeah.
I mean, my frontal cortex wasn't even close to being
Were you like
done.
20?
I was 18.
Oh,
and I was the youngest in my academy class.
Wow.
I went to the academy with Todd.
He mentioned that.
Yep.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen him in years. I mean, it was years before I saw him again after that, because he was in a different patrol up north. But he did not want me to go in, and I don't know why he didn't. The only thing I can think of is he knew what I'd see. I was an officer in the town I grew up in.
Yeah.
That can be really, really beneficial, but it can also be really challenging, and was at times. And my mom absolutely didn't want me to go in because of the risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you felt like you had made the wrong decision?
To go in?
Yeah.
I really loved the job.
You did?
What I took away so much more than I think I left in the community, in terms of the skills, the connections, the mentorship that I received, the opportunities that I was given. I saw bad things, but I don't want to say this the right way. They're part of who I am. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think that's unique to me. I think it's common for first responders in general, particularly North Country first responders, who are part of, they're part of their communities up here.
Yeah,
so,
they really are.
Yeah.
Were you still venturing outside during this time?
Yeah, so I probably got outside. That's where there had been a gap with climbing as I started to pursue my career, because that's all I ever thought I wanted to do. And we can talk about how that changed. But I started teaching the DARE program at the elementary school that I went to school at, in the classroom that I had the same teacher, which was like so cool and weird.
The teacher was still there?
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah. And, but then I would substitute teach sometimes, and I reconnected with my middle school industrial arts teacher who taught me to climb. And so we started going out into the mountains in the winter.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
like
how that,
ice climbing?
Yeah. Ice, alpine, mountaineering. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What things went wrong when you were mountaineering?
Well,
what did you learn from?
Yeah. What, pardon?
What did you learn from? Which experiences stick out to you?
Well, I wrote about this in the prologue of Where You'll Find Me, and that was an experience that I had on Franconia Ridge in February 2008, where I went with two people I hadn't met before and wanted to turn around multiple times. It was bad weather. I had been in bad weather before, but who was I with? I was with my climbing partner, who I trusted. And when you have that trust, not only will you... You can take on more, you can assume more risk because you have that trusting relationship. Yeah. And we turned around before, we'd canceled going out before, but my ego completely drove me across that ridgeline, which, and I was working in risk management and going out, Monday through Friday, talking to local governments about how to create good teams, how to manage risk. And here I am, violating all of my own rules. And why I think this is important and ties into the writing is I'm in the midst of the following week. I'm just beating myself up over what I had done. The personal rules I had broken. Went home, I had young kids, and the next weekend was when James Osborne and Fred Fredrickson tried to do the same loop in the opposite direction, got caught in the squall, were benighted on the ridge. And I was watching this on the news because it was it went from, it was over the course of several hours, so it made a news cycle. Yeah. And then I was obviously following it in the days that followed that. And that really had a significant impact on me because I had just been up there. Yeah. And then when I was researching that book, and that's what reconnected me to Todd. Again, it was almost 20 years since I'd seen him. But Fred had been on the ridge the day after me by himself and had done the loop. And, just to read that and just to know that that had a big impact on me in general. What did you feel? Like I failed. Yeah. Like, I got across the ridge with a, bruised ego and exhausted, but I felt I considered it a failure. Now I consider it one of the most probably important things that's happened to me because of what I've taken away from that and what I've tried to do with that experience in sharing it with other people. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to you as a police officer. What I want to understand. So, were you a police officer when you did that climb?
No, I had been out.
Okay.
I got out in 98, so I've been out for 28 years. This was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would like to know next is, why did you leave? What triggered that?
So I appreciate talking about these things because I just don't talk about them. I was given because of timing. I was planning to go from Holderness. I was going to be a state trooper. That had been my lifelong goal. Holderness was like, I think a stepping stone is the wrong word, but I saw the state police as a progression for me. And I was in the pipeline and was going through the process, and the chief in Holderness, he was leaving the role, and he was going to go to work doing something else. And I had the opportunity. I was very closely connected with the community. Was very engaged with the community, and I applied for the job. Went through the process, got the job. I was 25. Was the youngest in the state.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as hey, look at what I did. I can look back at that now and say that is a lot of responsibility for a board to give somebody at that age.
Yes.
With, I didn't have, I had just gotten in like 7 years earlier. So yeah, that happened. And, my dad had retired from Holderness in 84. And so he had been gone, I think 4 or 5 years before I applied.
Yeah.
Highly discouraged me not to do it. And, yeah, that part is history. So
when did you leave?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for closing the loop.
You're welcome.
So while I was going to school, and I was, I'd gotten married before I became chief. We had children, and I really wanted, I had been so intimidated by education because of the social aspect. That I think just me going in and just trying to fight for my place socially took away from the opportunity for me to learn in school. So I really wanted to pursue my undergrad degree. And so I went for what you would expect me to go for, which is criminal justice. I went to school at night. It was the College for Lifelong Learning, so I would drive to Bow for night classes. So thankful to my wife for just supporting me through that with young kids. And it wasn't the criminal justice classes that I was passionate about. It was the humanities courses. It was the creative writing courses. It was all of the things that had nothing to do with what I did for my job.
Yeah.
And it literally widened my lens. I loved what I was doing, but I was 29 years old, and I had this role. My family's growing. They're getting more active, and I'm starting to just see other things in the world other than what I had done right out of high school and the only thing I had ever been focused on. So I made the decision to do something else and just take that lean back on that rope and trust the anchor, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did. And again, I can't say this enough. I really enjoyed. I left a job I loved, because I wanted to experience something else. You know, it was following in my dad's footsteps, and I wanted to create my own path.
That must have been quite scary.
It was It was brutal. It was because I missed it. I really missed the job. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the community. I missed the service aspect, bringing, like, I'll say this probably multiple times in the show, but I really am fascinated by bringing order to chaos when things are just falling apart, trying to put them back together in a way to keep moving forward.
Can we talk about why you're so drawn to that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't think I know.
Have you thought about it?
Not until right now. No. I think I suspect it probably ties back to the fact that I never felt like I had it when I was growing up. I felt like I was kind of at the, you know, you hear, I'll use the mountains as a metaphor, but there's a certain point that the wind speed will just move you where it wants you to go. And I kind of feel like that's how a lot of my adolescence and teen years were, of just not really feeling my feet were planted on the ground, and I was kind of going at the whim of trying to get accepted by this social group or that one, trying to keep my head down. You know, I didn't do high school sports. I focused on I got a part-time job, and after school, I would go to work at a general store, work there on weekends. And then once you earn work study in high school, I mean, I was out of there at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and I would go to work till 7 or 8 at night. And that's what I did. Because I felt comfortable there. Yeah.
Interesting. Did you carry yourself differently at the store than you did at school?
Yeah, because I had, I worked the deli.
Yeah.
Thankfully for everybody who may have ever been there, I wasn't making sandwiches or things like that, but I was, you know, I'd slice meat, cut. You know, the owner of the store was teaching me how to do certain cuts of beef, and you would have to rotisserie the chicken down. You know, I can remember being in the basement bagging ice, it's just dark and dank and isolated, and restocking shelves. But yeah, it was kind of like I felt comfortable there. I knew the job. I was gaining confidence. I was dealing with people who were, you know, adults, which I was so much more comfortable talking with adults than my peer group. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were going to school, and until 1:30 in the afternoon, you were in what we would call chaos. Mm-hmm. And then when you go to work, you get the opportunity to create order. Yeah. So you're kind of living those two sides every single day.
Yeah, and I don't want to paint this picture that every experience I had at school was bad, because I did. There was laughter. Mm-hmm. I did have friendships there, and I had some good experiences, but I also vividly remember the ones that were not so good. Yeah. But they were formative for me too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And it made you who you are now.
Yes, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the reason why you're drawn to making order out of things.
Well, but I also I admire people who do that too. Like you had Todd on, I think, last week, mm-hmm. and I think about we talked about the Franconia Ridge rescue, and he was the search manager. Yeah. I don't know if he talked about it.
He did.
But the weight on he was in a command post, but the weight that he carried, and he's a humble human, but I know that weight. But it's a little different when it's not in a community, and you can see what you're at the scene. You have a sight line to this thing you're managing. He's sending people out into hundreds of acres of wilderness in a really unpredictable environment, and that's a lot, and just being able to talk with him and understand his mindset and how he kept it from letting emotions take over, and making really thoughtful, rational decisions. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to these stories, is because of those experiences that they have that I can share, the decision making that takes place of those that are out there on the trails or above tree line. But the job that I left police work for, the first job I went to, I was director of community relations at Spear Hospital, and it was I did a lot of writing in law enforcement because there's a lot that has to be written.
Yep.
I was writing press releases for the hospital. I was taking photographs of their events, trying to come up with marketing things, which was all very new to me. But if you had to guess where I was drawn to and where I spent most of my time, where do you think that was when I was there?
The ER. Absolutely. Yes.
So it was definitely filling this void for me, because I left the job. I'm like, well, this role was not the role I just left. And so I would go to the ER. My boss was, I think, not totally psyched about the amount of time I'd spend there. But I got such an appreciation for healthcare, watching, all of the ambulances are coming in, the waiting room is full, they're triaging, they're prioritizing, and then they're bringing order. And I have so much admiration for healthcare folks. From that experience, and I think that's why I make that a part of the stories I share when it involves a healthcare environment, is because I'm really fascinated by emergency medicine, wilderness medicine, but just also I think a lot of their efforts go healthcare it's a tough job. Patient care it's a tough job. And I really admire the people that choose that path.
Yeah, I think I understand that gravitational pull that you're talking about, and it was why I loved your book so much, because I'm reading about these search and rescue teams and this whole coordinated effort and how they make these amazing things happen. And, when I was reading it in your books, I was quite removed from the situation and understanding it as a story, something that's pretty far away. And then when I joined Search and Rescue, I had that idea of what it was like based on your books. And, being in it and seeing those same people in the stories and how they make decisions in the moment, I have that same admiration. I was just like, Amanda, you don't have time to admire them right now. But let's come back to this later, is the fact that, there's a lot going on out there. And there's a lot that, your stories are so detailed, but there's even more there from the part of every single volunteer and first responder, that they have their own experiences. They notice the environment and they remember what people said and the interactions that they had. So, there's a lot of that stuff too. But yes, the pull of watching somebody take a scary situation, a painful situation, or a chaotic situation, and make something organized out of it is like witnessing a miracle.
Yeah, and there's a there's a significant technical component to that, and it is an art form. It is an art form in reading the environment, understanding the people that you're sending into it, whether it's in a town, city, on a mountainside, and just having that constant sense of awareness about your own strengths and limitations, and not allowing those emotions to take over to cloud judgment, but also just how you move that team through that environment, where you send them and why.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just, hey, show up at the trailhead and go. It's not like that at all. You know, I mean, you live that. It's not like that.
So I have a question, because I'm remembering that you said your dad pretty much shut off all of his emotions.
Yeah.
So you saw that extreme, and, you know, you've witnessed other circumstances where you can't pay attention to your emotions in the moment because they would actually hurt the outcome. So where is the space for emotion in these chaotic times?
Well, I think it goes back to the question you asked me about mistakes in law enforcement, and I think the mistakes I made, you know, you can make a mistake in procedure, and I think, you know, we see examples of high profile activities in law enforcement or whatever it might be, and we have an opinion about what we see. I think just like any, you know, police officers are human beings, firefighters are human, and you're not always going to get it right, and you try to learn from that. I think most mistakes are unintentional; they're just unintentional. But I think some of the mistakes for me were not understanding that emotions were driving some of my decisions, or more importantly, how I viewed what was happening in front of me. So I think the balance comes from there's this balance between emotion and reason, and there's the rational side of you that says, okay, we've got to get from point A to point B. This is the outcome that we need to accomplish. But on the emotional side, I think that's also really important, because I need to be paying attention to the people around me. Maybe someone has a hesitation. Maybe someone is fearful about what we're asking them to do. Or am I dismissing a victim because I'm so focused on this other thing? So I think for me, you know, I think in my younger years of my career, hadn't really experienced loss before, and probably didn't, but it had been present for people who were experiencing it in real time, and not fully understanding what was happening, and maybe being more focused on dotting the I's and crossing the T's of the technical requirement of the accident scene or the crime scene or whatever, and almost having some blinders on to these other things that also needed my attention, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, it is, because there's also a safety component to it.
Yeah.
You do have to be situationally aware, particularly in a crisis.
Yeah.
For your own safety and the safety of your team and the safety of the public.
I wonder if it's just one of those things that you have to practice.
Yeah, you're constantly or regularly going through training where it's a requirement to be aware. And I do think first responders in general, I think there has been more emphasis placed on the mental health component of some of these calls.
Yeah.
Not only for the people they're going to help or going to deal with, but also their own. I think there's a lot more attention paid to that. It used to be, I mean, we didn't talk about our feelings in the 90s. You just didn't do it. You buried it, and you pay for that, I think, in the long run.
What was the turning point for you where you started feeling like it was okay to talk about your emotions?
It was a critical incident stress debriefing session.
Okay.
It was the police department and the fire department in the town I was working in. We were going through a debriefing. We were all in a big circle because we had just a firefighter had been killed. This might be more than people want. It's pretty heavy. But that firefighter, he had lived in our community forever. He was my next door neighbor. Growing up, he was part of, when I talk about that circle of uncles and aunts, and then there's the friends. They were always there. They had 4 children, 3 of whom were my age, that I grew up with. And, you know, I can remember getting called. I was at home. We had just gotten home with the kids from, I think it was a school concert or a school event. And I was the on-call supervisor. I got a phone call. Hey, you need to get to the intersection of Route 3 and 175. There's a fatal involving a fire truck. And so my first assumption is that there must have been a collision between that fire truck and a private vehicle. And so I got my stuff together, said goodbye to my family, go down to the scene, get out of the car, and remember, and I'm sharing this because I just think it's important for people to understand, again, my story's not unique. This community is surrounded by people just like me that are dealing with the same stuff. But just being overwhelmed by the smell of diesel fuel, it's chaotic. There's a fire truck on its side over an embankment, and the on-duty officer who called me out comes up to me, and he said the firefighter's name, and I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's the firefighter who died. And I had, obviously you have to flip the switch because now I'm the on-scene supervisor.
For your friends.
For my friend.
Death.
Yep. And all of these people at the scene are my friends, and because they've responded there because it's the fire department.
Yep.
And it's just, there's 2 firefighters who are injured, but this firefighter was in his own vehicle. He was responding to the station to get the truck. For whatever reason, and we'll never know, he pulled out thinking that the fire truck was going to take a right-hand turn, and it didn't. It continued straight and T-boned him. So, it's a longer story, but so I was there. I was very involved in the scene and him, dealing with him, and then myself and my chief at the time had to drive up to his house because he lived just up the road, walked into the kitchen. My mom's there. All of his kids are there. His wife is there, who, was part of raising me.
Yeah.
And had to tell her. She already knew. It's a small community. The kitchen was full. But we had to make the official notification.
Yeah.
And that night, we had a debriefing where it was a diffusal. So you go around and they say, hey, this is what you're going to feel and may feel over the next couple of days. You get handouts. They just kind of tell you what you might expect. Well, I had to go. I went home, went to bed for a couple hours, and then I had to get up because I got assigned. I had to do his 24-hour background. So you had to spend that. Everyone has a role. And I had how did he spend the last 24 hours of his life? So I'm talking to his wife, I'm talking to his kids, I'm talking to his coworkers.
Man.
I'm like, I am in it, and I'm neck deep in this,
yeah.
right? And I'm glad it was me. But then the following Saturday, we had a debriefing, and we were all in a big circle, and I it got to my turn, and I lost it. I lost it in front of this group who I work with, who I'm peers with, and it's really the first time on the job that I allowed myself to be broken.
Yeah.
And not be broken away from eyes, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's, and then I think it just from there, I think just a much higher level of awareness of empathy, grief. I'd been through some loss before, had lost friends before, but this was, a line of duty death is very, it's already incredibly painful. And then when you're up close and personal with it, and it's so personal, it just blurs the lines of personal, professional, everything. And so
we had a member of our community not come home a couple years ago. He had gone out for a hike by himself, and he didn't come home, and Pemisar had to go find him. And there were people on the team that knew him. Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking, what would I do in that situation if I knew the person that I was going to be recovering? And I decided around that time that I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could respond. You probably didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice, but I wouldn't have wanted somebody else to be... I wouldn't have wanted somebody else to have that experience, and I don't mean that selfishly. Mm-hmm. I mean, for... when my chief and I walked in that kitchen, that's where the community aspect comes in. It's that she knew our faces. She knew me when I was 5, right? Yeah. And I try to think about if that had been somebody else that... Remember I talked about the detachment that I had mm-hmm. In my career. To have felt the detachment, I don't think it would have done his sacrifice justice. So, and I think when I was writing lines of Winter and the loss of Albert Dow, the teammate, and writing about his teammates being there and up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't on a mountainside; it was at an intersection. But I've walked that path, and again, that's not to say, "Hey, look what I did." But I think I can authentically write about that experience because I've lived it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that was a really powerful story. I recently finished that book. I think probably within the last 6 months I read it. And I thought about that when it was about the teammates and just how difficult it was for everybody. And, some people just stopped talking and just everybody just handles it differently.
They didn't have debrief.
No,
they were my age. Some of them, right around the age I was when I had that experience, but they didn't have a debriefing. They buried it, right? They put it away and they went and tried to just deal with it on their own. And that's why a lot of those conversations were raw. I mean, they were raw and emotional
because they hadn't happened.
Yeah, it was the worst first. Yeah,
So we talked about that kind of being the catalyst, that moment in your life for you kind of allowing emotion to be present. How do you think that experience changed you going forward? You talked about being more aware, but how did it actually change you?
Yeah, I think I went through after that session because there were probably 30 people in that room because they had all been there, and I maybe 10%, probably closer to 5% actually showed emotion.
Even after you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I left there thinking, wow, did I just project weakness? I went through that thought process.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely, becoming a parent softens you. Loss, I think, softens you. Or maybe you can go one of two ways with it. And I just think that's, empathy evolves from those experiences, or at least that's the path I took from them. So yeah, and then I think it just continued on.
So that's two different experiences that you've talked about this morning that connect to two of your books. What connected you to Kate Matrasova?
So that, I hadn't intended to write that book, or I wanted to write a book in my late teens and early 20s. What could I possibly have to say or share? And I had put together a presentation for work, going back to the risk management side. We were having a conference in May of 2015, and I wanted to take something I'm passionate about, which is mountaineering, accidents that I've followed for years, kind of cross it over with my role in risk, and put together this presentation using a couple of case studies. Was all set to go, and then in February, before the May conference, the Kate Matrasova tragedy takes place. It's getting so much attention. It's like you were in one camp or another. You were heartbroken about it, or you were incredibly critical of the decisions. To be like, there was a lot of that going on, and I decided that I would add that because of the proximity to the conference, because it was so front of mind for people. And I thought I was doing that presentation one time, and there was somebody in the audience. I did it for it was a public sector group at this conference. I was asked by a school superintendent to come do it at a superintendent's conference in the fall. Decided I just wanted to focus on Kate's story because people were very, very compelled by it during the session. Went back to Fish and Game, was able to get Kate's GPS file, it was put into Google Earth, created a series of videos with the help of people at work, and so I could, you could kind of almost follow along where this was happening, overlaid that with the weather conditions, the rescuers' perspectives. Thought I was, again, that's the last time I was going to do it. And then somebody from the PEMI team he was a school principal. He said, "Hey, would you come do this for the PEMI team?" And I went and did it for the PEMI team. And then Fish and Game asked me to do it for all of their COs for an annual training. And then I was doing it constantly in the membership, by people who had seen it or heard about it. And every time I would do it, I'd get questions I couldn't answer, so I would go get answers. And over the course of a year and a half of doing this, this big stack of paper starts to pile up. And people are asking, like, "Hey, is there a book out there about this? Or is someone writing one? Are you writing one?" And I was, no, and no. And then finally, it got to a point where the book it was writing itself, really. And I was doing a presentation at L.O. Bean in Freeport on a Friday night for their lecture series, and an older couple came up to me with "Hey, is there a book out here about this? Is somebody writing it?" And I said, "There isn't a book, and I know of no one that's writing it." And the woman grabs my hands and just pulls me in, and she says, "You need to write this. You need to write this book." And that's kind of where that started.
So some random woman?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know who she is? Do you have any contact with her?
No, I don't.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really special, though. I mean, the book found you.
It did.
What do you think about that?
I mean, this had been a dream of mine when I read I can remember in February of 95, so 10 years earlier, right? 20 years earlier. See?
Oh, man.
Math.
I'm not good at it either.
Yeah, so especially in public. And what could be more public than this? Hopefully 4 people are listening. But but I remember in February of 95 walking into my mom's kitchen. And she is to this day a very loyal reader of Yankee magazine. And here on a counter is Killer Mountain, the deadly allure of Mount Washington. And there's this beautiful oil painting of the mountain. And I open it, and it's this series of pieces by Nicholas Howe of trouble in the presidential range over the course of 150 years. Well, that was the preview to Not Without Peril that would come out about a month later. And for me, that Yankee magazine and that book, I was like, I want to do that. I want to write like that. I want to write these stories.
Wow.
And that was in my early 20s, right?
Okay.
Right around there. But then I kind of had the family's growing. I'm working, all of the other stuff that's going, chasing kids around to hockey games, all of that kind of stuff. And so when I started doing this, I mean, this is a dream, but it took, I mean, that was 1995, and Where You'll Find Me came out in 2017. So it just takes a while for some of these things to come around and hit you when you literally least expect it.
Yeah, some random woman grabbing you by the hands and saying, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And listening.
Yeah.
That is really cool. I mean, we're in such a culture of instant gratification, and everything needs to happen right now, and I need to become a XYZ in the next year or whatever. Like, there's something to be said for allowing yourself to season in the pan, right?
I'm absolutely, that's a great way to put it. I definitely think I can't imagine writing any earlier than I started.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would have the same perspective, the same passion. I think it was just, I think it'd be easy to look, I wish I'd started doing this so much earlier. Look what I could have done. And I don't have those feelings. I'm really grateful to be in this with readers. And I wouldn't change it.
So someone asked on the Facebook post yesterday when your next book is coming out. And I think this is a good time to ask you the same question.
Yeah, well, thank you to the person that posted the question. I am working on one now.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when it will be done, because I'm always balancing writing with work and family. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in that order, but so then, when I'm writing it, I'm sacrificing something else. And so generally I'm sacrificing the things I like to do outside of work and family time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But my research is done. I'm structuring it now. I'll be writing fall, winter, probably early spring, and then we'll see what happens.
I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people eagerly waiting for that.
Okay.
You have nothing to say.
I don't know what to say. I'm just, I am very grateful for the readers. I don't take any of this for granted. I know without them, I may not be writing books, right? It's the readers that drive all of this, and the feedback and the stories they share and the experiences they have and what these stories mean to them. And I don't own these stories. I'm kind of a conduit to them.
That's right.
And and how people choose to read them and what they choose to do with that information is it's pretty neat to hear what they're doing.
Yes, and it's, writing a book that has that kind of impact is, I think, one of the most honorable things you can do with your lived experience, because it's a way to make it last forever and keep touching lives.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as people keep reading.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative of folks for that.
Well, we are way over on time, which makes me really sad.
And we got to midlife. just
midlife.
Short of midlife, right?
Yeah. I'm always scared to go a long time because I don't want to lose people's interest, I want to give them just enough. And then be like, oh, you want to come back? So, Ty, what do you think about coming back?
We're unfinished, right? The story isn't fully written.
I don't think it's ever going to be fully written. You'll have new experiences to come talk about.
Okay.
Right?
I would love to come back.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We'd love to have you. Anything else that you feel like you want to share now before we end this amazing episode?
Yeah, I'll go back to, you said that the books inspired you to join Search and Rescue. And
yeah.
I think what I would say to that is, again, I'm a conduit for the stories. It's how people react to the information.
Right.
That I think is more important than me presenting it. So for me, that was, you read it, and that was your values tapping you on the shoulder.
That's right.
to serve in the way that you've chosen to serve. And you should give yourself some accolades for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for putting it that way too. Yeah. It does tap into whatever values you already have.
Yep.
It's a good way to say it. But I know plenty of people in the hiking community who, even though they don't join Search and Rescue, have made better decisions because of the awareness that you've helped broadcast. So thank you for being the conduit.
Well, it's an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is. I'm so glad that you're here, not just in this studio right now, but in the world, and paying attention to your life and the lives around you.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the coffee that you bought me as well.
Oh, pleasure.
At Crumbum. All right, our listeners, I know we want to keep listening to Ty tell his stories, but I promise he'll come back. I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. A reminder that you're listening to North of Normal on WZNC LP Bethlehem North Country Community Radio, 99.9 FM, and streaming online at nococommunityradio.org. Ty, thank you for saying yes to this conversation and for trusting us with your story. Really appreciate you opening up today and sharing things that you aren't used to sharing.
Not at all. So
you're very brave today.
Thank you.
To our listeners, if something in today's conversation stayed with you, I hope you'll spend some time listening to more episodes on North of Normal. More than 40 people from across the North Country have sat in the chair that Ty's sitting in and shared their experiences, lessons, and moments that shaped who they are. Every conversation's different, but together they tell a much bigger story about the people who live here. You can find past episodes at clearviewadvantage.com/podcast. I'm also on Spotify. And I'd also love to hear from you. If you have feedback, a guest recommendation, a story you think I should know about, or you just want to say hi, you can email me at amanda@clearviewadvantage.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting local radio. And thank you for continuing to make room for honest stories, deeper understanding, and real connection. I'm Amanda McKeen. I'll see you back here next Tuesday. Until then, stay grounded, stay curious, and stay a little north of normal. Thanks, Ty.
Thank you.